And this is something that can be explained, after all. We don't have any fossils to be able to underpin our assertions, but we know that there were various changes from over the course of the 6 million years that mankind has developed. And sexuality in human lives at present is an element of pleasure in being together. It is an element of coexistence which creates closeness, which creates a space in which coexistence can be made pleasant, enjoyable, and in which a space emerges in which coexistence and co-aspiration take place. And sexuality has nothing to do alone with intimacy alone with your genitals. It has to do with your physical being together. And if two people embrace, then this is an act of acceptance and of pleasure in the body of the other. That is sexuality. In other words, bodily closeness, quite simply. And if we're talking about 3 million years during which food was shared, it was collected, and pleasure was shared too, then we ask ourselves what is different now. If we go to the supermarket and we also gather food, and if we experience emotions, this is something which I feel, that's my experience. And if I go to the supermarket, take the trolley and gather food, and the emotion is quite different. If I then buy it, the emotion is different. You gather food, on the other hand. And what's the family? The family is a space of intimacy where you are together. The pleasure of being together. If it's not a pleasure in being together, then the family is not a family. It is a group of individuals who live under the same roof. But if it's not pleasurable being together, then this is not a proper family. And we are also gatherers. Of carrion. We see people rummaging in garbage heaps. We're looking for something to eat. And if we go to the supermarket, then we also look for things. These are animals that have been killed by other people. And that's the way things were earlier, that the remains of animals were eaten that were being killed by lions or by other hunters.
In this intimacy, speaking, conversation arose, and with life, living together in networks also arose, networks that were recursive. It's a coordination of coordinations, if you like, of experiencing emotions. Why did we do this? Because language doesn't have to do with abstract symbols. Language has to do with coordinating what we do and what we experience. And also the coordination of coordination. There is a recursive element in that, which is expressed in language. You understand something, and then you say, that's the way it is. We speak of communication, but communication is a commentary, really, which reflects upon the coordination between living beings. Normally we use communication as such. We use communication of social systems as if it was something that has nothing to do with persons. Communication is different from the observer. If two people or more people coordinate what they do, then it's communication, but it's not always seen as communication. Language means something is being coordinated, and that's where that recursive character comes in. We say potentially we are open to that recursive character because there is a continuous proximity, because things are done together, and because coordination arises spontaneously from that and from that language. So we refer to the fact that it's possible to be part of something else. Running, for example, I move my legs like this, My legs have their own circular dynamics, but I'm not actually running, am I? If, however, my movements change, something new emerges. I walk. Every time we have the same circular dynamics and linear dynamics happening at the same time, and every time the two converge, something new arises, as in the example of walking or running, or in the example of language as a coordination of coordination. So language has to do with doing. It's nothing abstract. It is always linked to doing. I'm going to call up Humberto. Hello? Hello? Who am I speaking to? Hello? I can't do it. I've got to try again. She says there is no communication.
Hello?
Hello? Who's speaking? Oh, it's Ximena. Who am I speaking to? I tried for ages to call you. Oh, great. Well, where are you? Oh, I'm in Berlin. Berlin? Me too. I don't believe that. Why don't we eat together? Yeah, great. I'm also in Berlin. Why don't we have a meal together tonight? Great. Let's meet at 8. Okay, 8 o'clock. Where? At the Transmediale. Okay, great. I'll meet you there. Fine. See ya. What's happening? First, there's no communication because there's no connection. Secondly, hello, who's talking? Hello, who's there? Oh, Ximena. Suddenly, coordination happens. It's successful. She and I are no longer independent from one another for a particular moment, and everything that happens through this form of coordination which already exists. Conversation emerges, a flow of coordination, and our doings are coordinated with one another. So we are going to meet later on to have a meal. But we don't see this. We are kind of, well, we dove into the language. We think of information all the time, and we don't see that language is a flow, a coordination of coordinations which is infinite. And that has to do with our meeting later on. He doesn't give me any information, I don't give him any information. What we are doing is that we coordinate our actions in the flow of our coexistence. And the idea that we should share information kind of hides this fact, because you think that you could give the other person something. The information is a commentary that is passed by the observer on the development of the interactions. If you take a look at a dictionary, you will see that all words that have more than one meaning that all those words are listed there, and that you can connect those different meanings with one another. It's interesting, we don't often see this. We often see this thinking, oh well, that's language, it's something abstract, there are symbols, and it all serves communication. So if human manner of living began in this small group of bipedal primates that live together in love, that is really the origin of our human families. We are saying that humans arose from such small groups of beings that we call bipedal primates. That probably happened around 3 million years ago. So this living together, this coordination of our activities back then, that food, for example, was passed on from one person to another. That's where the coordination of coordinations first arose. And that's the origin of humans, because for the first time, families began.